What's up, everybody, and welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new, my name is Gregory.Siegel. I am a filmmaker, and I love movies, obviously, but in particular, I love Godzilla. I've been watching the original Toho Godzilla films since I was just a small child, honestly. The Godzilla franchise is my favorite franchise, along with the Alien franchise. I'd say that those two are a tie for me. And for those who have seen my video on Godzilla -1 when I first saw it, you already know how I feel about it. I made a comment in that video about the Monsterverse and how I just said that it was okay and I liked them just fine. But I think I've reevaluated my opinion. I think I really love the Monsterverse, but for a very different reason. And we're gonna talk about that today. Godzilla obviously needs no introduction, so let's go. So the Monsterverse was kicked off by Godzilla 2014, which was directed by Gareth Edwards, who was responsible for Star Wars Rogue One and more recently, The Creator, which is a film that I actually loved from last year. His vision for Godzilla was pretty tight. I think that fans were expecting certain things after that, things that we didn't particularly get. Some things we did. I think 2019's Godzilla King of the Monsters is where we started to see a shift into a little bit more kind of entertainment-based, ridiculous tomfoolery, but with a really strong concentration on representing these Toho characters authentically and giving us this really solid modern adaptation of some of these monsters that fans like myself have always loved. All of these characters that we got to see, and the human story lacked in this one. We really saw a dip in quality. The acting just wasn't great, and the dialogue was not there. And it took me many years to be able to ignore that. And I think my issue is that I was trying to ignore it instead of just embracing the ridiculousness of it. More on that in a minute, because I had to learn this with this franchise. And I don't know why it didn't hit me. But just wait. I'm not gonna let my ADHD ruin this video, not today. I think it's also because I watched Godzilla -1 and then immediately rewatched the Monsterverse films. I think that's really what did it for me, because I made the realization when watching Godzilla -1 that Toho was really going back to their roots with making a really serious, dark, gritty horror movie adaptation almost of the source material, going back to the original 1954 version in terms of themes and tone and metaphors. This is what made Godzilla iconic to begin with. And we've finally kind of gone back to that with Toho. But the American franchise, Legendary Films, the Monsterverse, this is the opposite of that. What we're getting from the American Monsterverse films is the Showa era of the American market. That's right. I consider the Monsterverse to be the American Showa era. And for those of you who are unfamiliar, the Showa era, one of the first eras of the Godzilla franchise, and it was just campy and ridiculous. You had Godzilla drop-kicking people. You had Godzilla dancing. It was out of control insanity most of the time. And that's exactly where we're at now. It keeps on getting more and more ridiculous with each film. Not only does the monster action seem to get more ridiculous, but so does the human stories, the acting and the dialogue. I remember this line that I hated when I first saw it in Godzilla v Kong. It's Robo Godzilla. And the other guy's like, no, it's Mecha Godzilla. And I'm just like, I cannot watch this movie. I cannot do it. But now I love it, because now I'm looking at it from the context of this is ridiculous camp silliness. The people behind the Monsterverse right now, and particularly the director of the past two films, Adam Wingard, they understand the assignment. They know the source material, and they know what they're doing. They are giving us that American Showa era. So that's where we are. Got it, done, good. Now what? We've got a lot of things going on right now. The Monsterverse is very multifaceted. We've got the, Monarch Legacy of Monsters. We've got the movies that are taking place. So let's really start with this upcoming film, Godzilla X Kong. I have some theories about what is going to be happening in this movie. So my first main prediction is that the relationship between Godzilla and Kong is going to be even more overt and ridiculous than we saw in Godzilla v Kong. I feel like it's going to be this kind of buddy cop situation, and we've seen examples of this already. Article after article after article talking about this, where the director has basically cited Lethal Weapon as an inspiration. I think that's hysterical. So I want to see Godzilla roll his eyes at Kong. More than anything. Please, if we're gonna go ridiculous, let's just go all the way. I want to see Godzilla roll his eyes. How hilarious would that be? Is it just me? Okay, maybe it's just me. My second big prediction in this film is the extent of the inclusion of Mothra. It's already basically been confirmed that Mothra is returning. We've seen the reflection of her in the eye in the trailer, but even before that, it's basically confirmed at this point. All right, so we know that Mothra's coming back. Godzilla and Kong don't necessarily like each other, but they need like a nurturing motherly mediator. Enter Mothra. And I feel like Mothra's going to be joining the team. You know, when we see in the trailer Godzilla and Kong side by side roaring at each other, which fans have already speculated that's probably going to end up being the final frame of the film. Well, there's quite a big distance between them, wouldn't you say? I do think that there's going to be an additional Titan there, and I do think that it's going to be all three, and that all three of them are going to be in the final frame. Clearly edited out for the trailer because that's the secret. If there's anything that I know about Adam Wingard, is that he loves the element of surprise, and he likes secrecy. And he did that with the Mechagodzilla and Godzilla v Kong, where he had this reveal of the Mechagodzilla coming out, basically ended up being like the secret Toho villain, right? And so people keep on asking each other on forums, what is going to be the secret Toho villain here? You know, people have thrown out Destroya being the possibility. People have been claiming up and down that Space Godzilla is going to appear in this movie. I don't think there's going to be a secret Toho monster that's just going to creep up at the end that joins the fight. Because we already have Scar King, we already have Shimo. So listen, hear me out. The secret that Adam Wingard is keeping is that Mothra joins the team and becomes a part of this Monsterverse Avengers ridiculousness that Legendary Films is clearly building. Anybody who knows me knows that if this was any other franchise, I would be totally against that. Some of you who have been following me for a while may remember the video that I made on Exorcist Believer and how I talked about the superheroization of cinema and how it has been ruining film. And other franchises have done this too, where they adopt this kind of Avengers dynamic, and it's like everything has to be a spectacle. I don't feel that way about this franchise though, because this franchise has already done it. When? Back in the Showa era. We've seen so many times where different monsters would team up, and sometimes it'd be a bunch of monsters teaming up, and we'd have all these different things. And that's what's happening now. We're seeing this here in the American Showa era. I don't know how many times I'm going to say American Showa era in this video, but it's very clear that that's what Legendary is setting up. Whether I'm right or wrong remains to be seen, but we'll see, right? We'll see. The other major theory that I have is that, and it kind of contradicts what I just said, and it has to do with the secret Toho villain. I don't think it will be appearing in this film necessarily. I think that it will be appearing in a post-credit scene. I think that this film, Godzilla X Kong, is literally exists to put Godzilla, Kong, and Mothra together in a team. And once we see that they're a team, we're going to have a post-credit scene where we are being introduced to a Toho monster that they will have to fight in their next film. All three of them. Let's talk about that. Who would I like to see versus who is it we're most likely going to see? I would love to see Hedorah or Biollante. Like, those were my two favorites. And don't come for me for my pronunciation of Biollante. That's how I've been saying it my entire life. All right? Some people who are really like snobby fans will be like, it's Biollante. I'm like, I'm not saying it like that. I think that Hedorah in particular might be my favorite just because it's such a unique design. And it's a very interesting metaphor. But I don't know if I want those introduced in the Monsterverse quite yet, because the Monsterverse doesn't really seem to be interested in metaphor. And I know that, you know, there's so much metaphor in the Toho world that it will be hard to find a monster that doesn't represent something, but I think that there are some that represent more things than others, and I think that some of the ones that I think that could fit very well in the Monsterverse right now as it stands would be some of the classic favorites. We've already seen King Ghidorah already, yeah, you know, so like what would be the next step? And I think that next step would be Destroya or Space Godzilla. And another thing too is that we've now had this kind of dynamic of time. One of the Godzilla versus Ghidorah films where it was like time-traveling aliens. This idea of space and time has happened before in the Godzilla franchise. So it just makes sense to me now that we've introduced this aspect of time dilation from Monarch Legacy of Monsters, where time operates differently in Axis Mundi, you know, that kind of that bridge between the surface world and Hollow Earth. Maybe we'll see Space Godzilla in a post-credit scene, and maybe we won't. Let's go. Let's see if I'm right. We've got about a month, okay? If I'm gonna come out like, haha, told you guys, or if I'm gonna have my tail between my legs and say, I was wrong. That remains to be seen. I guess we'll find out. So thanks guys for watching this video. I'm just, you know, I'm just such a huge fan of this franchise, and I just cannot wait to see what's next. Sorry for my lack of video posting in the past few weeks. It has been very hard for me. I just finished my last local showing for Culturegeist on Saturday. So those are all finally done, and now that is it until, you know, the online premiere here on YouTube on March 15th. So be on the lookout for that. Again, I worked really, really hard on this film, and it's so important to me because I really want to show people that you can make films, you can make art, you can do whatever you want without having to spend any money if you don't want to. Like, there are ways to work with your limitations, and I really want to help inspire other artists to do the same. And I dedicated 2 years of my life to making this film. I quit my full-time job just to work on it. And I really do feel like it paid off because everyone who's seen it so far just loved it. And so I can't wait for you to see it. Thanks for watching, guys. If you are interested in film and culture and how those two things intersect, and you're interested in filmmakers like myself who go against the grain and create freely just because we want to, then go ahead and push the subscribe button and that little bell thing too, so you can get notified, because I'm going to be posting a lot of really cool stuff in the next few months. So again, thanks y'all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.